Darius Miller's world collapsed the morning he found a folded note on the kitchen counter. 7 simple words. "I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore," were all that remained of his partner, Alicia. There was no warning, no argument the night before, not even a goodbye. Just silence, followed by the crushing realization that she had left, not only him but also their 5 young children. The oldest, Micah, was barely a teenager, and the youngest was still in diapers. The children, confused and heartbroken, bombarded Darius with questions he couldn't answer. "Where's Mommy? Did we do something wrong?" Desperate to protect them, he lied gently, telling them she needed time, that she still loved them and would come back soon. But days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, and Alicia never returned. Her disappearance wasn't just physical, it left behind emotional wreckage. Darius was forced to quit one of his 2 jobs because childcare alone cost more than his wages. Sleep-deprived and overwhelmed, he burned dinners, forgot permission slips, and constantly feared he was failing his children. Yet every morning he got up before dawn, poured coffee into the chipped mug Alicia once loved, and faced the day. That mug, once a reminder of love, became a symbol of endurance. Despite exhaustion and heartbreak, Darius refused to let his family fall apart. With nothing but grit and a father's love, he picked up the broken pieces Alicia left behind and began rebuilding, one breakfast, one bedtime story, one hug at a time. In the aftermath of Alicia's sudden departure, Darius Miller found himself alone, raising 5 children with nothing but determination and love. The transition from a 2-married household to single fatherhood was brutal. With no warning and no support, Darius had to make sacrifices quickly. He quit one of his 2 jobs because the cost of childcare exceeded his income, and suddenly, every waking hour belonged to his children. Sleep became a luxury. He often burned dinners, forgot about school paperwork, and barely made it through the week without feeling like he was falling apart. But every morning, without fail, he rose at 5 a.m., filled the same chipped mug with coffee, and powered through the chaos. The kitchen came alive with pancakes sizzling, kids fighting over the bathroom, and Ela crying about a missing sock. Darius rarely finished his coffee, but the laughter of his children, when it came, reminded him of why he fought so hard. At the construction site, he found brief moments of peace in the noise of machines, hiding his tears during lunch breaks in his truck. Despite exhaustion and setbacks, he never stopped showing up. Micah, his eldest, became a pillar, stepping into responsibilities no child should bear, yet never complained. Darius missed milestones, career opportunities, and social events, but what he built was far greater. A home filled with resilience and love. He wasn't climbing corporate ladders, he was holding tiny hands, braiding hair, fixing lunches, and proving every day that he would never abandon them, no matter how hard it got. As the eldest of 5, Micah was forced to grow up far too soon. When Alicia left, Darius did everything he could to hold the family together, but there were moments when even the strongest man couldn't carry it all. That's when Micah quietly stepped in, not because anyone asked, but because they understood the weight of what had been left behind. Still in their early teens, Micah became the second parent in the household. They helped cook dinners, mediated sibling squabbles, packed school lunches, and soothed crying younger siblings late at night. Micah never complained, never asked for recognition, but Darius noticed the signs, the dark circles under their eyes, the long silences at the dinner table, the way they always put everyone else before themselves. It broke Darius's heart to watch his child surrender their youth, yet he knew he couldn't have made it without them. Micah's quiet strength was the glue that kept everything from falling apart. While other kids their age were hanging out with friends or exploring their own identities, Micah was making grocery lists and helping Ela find her missing homework. They filled the gap Alicia had left, often without realizing just how much it was costing them. In moments of exhaustion, when Darius questioned whether he could keep going, it was Micah's calm reassurance and unwavering presence that gave him the strength to push forward. They weren't just a child, they were a partner in survival, a silent hero carrying the weight of a broken family with quiet grace. 10 years after disappearing without a trace, Alicia resurfaced in the most unexpected way. A letter. Darius came home one ordinary Thursday evening, tired from work, and sorted through the usual stack of mail, but buried between bills and school flyers was an envelope with familiar handwriting that stopped him cold. No return address, just his name. It was from Alicia. After 10 Christmases, 10 birthdays, 10 first days of school without her, she was suddenly reaching out. Darius didn't open the letter right away. He kept it in his jacket pocket, close enough to feel but far enough to avoid. For days it haunted him at work and at home. The sound of his children laughing in the kitchen, the same room she once abandoned, now echoed with new meaning. When he finally opened the letter late one night, it read like a confession. Alicia claimed she'd been overwhelmed, that leaving wasn't planned but a reaction to pressure and fear. She wrote about therapy, faith, and a desire to make amends. She said she'd changed, and most of all she wanted to see the children. Darius sat with the letter for a long time. Her words stirred emotions he thought he'd buried, pain, anger, confusion, but he didn't make any decisions. Not this time. The kids had the right to know, and more importantly, they had the right to choose. After holding everything together for a decade, Darius wasn't about to let the past return without reckoning. Her letter wasn't just an apology, it was a test of everything he'd built. When the day of the reunion finally arrived, the atmosphere was heavy with silence and apprehension. Darius had chosen a public park, neutral, open and safe, where his children could leave at any time if things became overwhelming. Gray skies loomed overhead, as if mirroring the emotional storm brewing within the family. Darius stood by the duck pond, 5 children gathered close, each carrying a mix of curiosity, hurt, and guarded hope. When Alicia appeared, she looked nothing like the woman who had walked out 10 years ago. Older, worn down, and wrapped in a coat too thin for the cold. Her eyes searched for familiarity in the faces of the children she once left behind. "I've missed you all," she said, her voice trembling, but no one moved. Micah crossed their arms. Jaden stared at the ground. Ela clung to Darius' side, half hidden behind his leg. Alicia spoke of being lost, of finding herself, of how hard life had been, but her words failed to connect. They fell flat, deflected by years of absence, unanswered questions, and unhealed wounds. Then, Micah stepped forward and asked the question that had been lingering in everyone's heart. "What do you expect from us now?" Alicia had no answer. The silence that followed said everything. There were no hugs, no tears, just stillness and emotional distance. As they walked away, Alicia whispered, "I hope you'll let me try." But not one child turned back. In the car ride home, there was no music, no chatter, just quiet understanding. That meeting wasn't closure. It was confirmation. Alicia hadn't returned for love. She came back with empty hands and even empty reasons. And for the children she left behind, it was no longer about forgiveness, it was about protecting the family that had survived without her. In the days following the tense reunion at the park, something about Alicia's sudden reappearance didn't sit right with Darius, or with Micah. Her words had seemed hollow, her presence fragile, and her explanations incomplete. Micah, ever observant, took it upon themselves to dig deeper. One evening, they slid a phone across the kitchen table. "I found her," they said. There on Alicia's social media were photos with strangers and captions that painted a very different story. One post included a GoFundMe link titled "Starting Over After Setbacks," where she pleaded for financial help and spoke vaguely of reconnecting with family. Darius's heart sank. This wasn't about redemption, it was survival. He hired a private investigator to uncover the full truth. Within days, the findings were clear and devastating. Alicia was drowning in debt, credit cards maxed out, lawsuits pending, and eviction notice recently filed. She had been in and out of short-term jobs and was barely scraping by. Worst of all, she'd been mentioning Darius's name in forums and to acquaintances, hinting that reuniting with her children might solve her problems. The truth hit hard. Alicia hadn't returned for love, healing, or reconnection. She'd come back for rescue. That night, Darius gathered the kids and showed them everything. No sugarcoating, no excuses. They deserved the truth, and in that moment, it became painfully clear they didn't owe Alicia anything. Her return wasn't a second chance, it was a calculated plea for help. And this time, Darius was ready to protect his family at all costs. After learning the truth behind Alicia's return, Darius knew he couldn't leave anything to chance. For 10 years he had poured everything into keeping his children safe, emotionally, physically, and financially. He wasn't about to let all of that unravel. The very next day he called a family meeting. The kids gathered around the dining table, sensing the seriousness in his voice. With quiet resolve, Darius laid out the investigators' findings for them to see. The debts, the lawsuits, the eviction, the desperate online posts. There was no need for dramatics, the facts spoke for themselves. "She didn't come back for us," Micah said, eyes locked on the papers. "She came back because she had nowhere else to go." Darius nodded. "And this time, we don't owe her anything." But he didn't stop there. Later that evening, Darius brought out a thick envelope he had kept hidden for years. Documents prepared carefully, signed in silence, and safeguarded with love. As the children looked on, he revealed what he had done. He had legally adopted all 5 of them. There would be no loopholes, no custody claims, no surprises. "You are mine," he told them, "by law, by heart, and by choice." The room filled with quiet emotion, tears, hugs, disbelief. For years, Darius had fought in the background, not for recognition, but for their security, and now it was permanent. In that moment, the family Alicia had abandoned became something unbreakable. Not just a group bound by blood, but by loyalty, sacrifice, and unconditional love. Darius didn't need to be thanked. Seeing his children safe, free, and whole was more than enough. He hadn't just protected them from the past, he had given them the future they deserved. With the legal adoption finalized and the truth about Alicia fully revealed, Darius and his children finally entered a chapter they had long been denied. Peace. For the first time in years, the heavy uncertainty that had loomed over their home began to lift. Laughter returned to the dinner table. Micah started touring colleges with excitement rather than hesitation. Jaden joined the school soccer team. Elah went back to dance class with renewed joy. The 2 youngest filled the house with their usual chaos and giggles, their innocence no longer burdened by fear of disruption. Darius, too, began to breathe a little easier. He pulled out the final stack of legal documents, college savings plans, emergency funds, healthcare proxies. Every safeguard was now in place. He had done more than raise 5 kids alone. He had built a fortress of stability around them. Then one final letter arrived. Alicia's handwriting. It was short, quiet, and honest. She confessed that her return had been driven by desperation, not love. She admitted she was not ready for the responsibilities she had once abandoned, and this time she promised she would not reach out again. Darius didn't respond. Through a mutual acquaintance, he later learned that Alicia had moved out of state, joined a support program, and was trying to rebuild her life alone. For the Miller family, it was closure. Not dramatic, not explosive, just quiet and complete. The door Alicia had left cracked open was now gently, finally closed, and in the warmth of their home, with movie nights, inside jokes, and dreams once again taking root, Darius and his children stood stronger than ever. What they had built wasn't just recovery, it was rebirth. They were not the broken family she left behind. They were the unshakable one he had raised. This story is a powerful reminder that true love is not measured by grand gestures or perfect circumstances, but by unwavering presence and quiet sacrifice. Darius didn't have much, no wealth, no luxury, but he gave his children what matters most: stability, commitment, and unconditional love. In a world that often values fast solutions and easy exits, his story teaches us that staying, showing up, and doing the hard work of love day after day is what truly builds a family. For older generations who have seen life's unpredictability, this story reaffirms the importance of resilience and responsibility. It reminds us that healing doesn't always come from those who left, but from those who stayed. We cannot always undo the past, but we can protect the future by making intentional, loving choices in the present. Darius's quiet strength offers a model of fatherhood, not based on perfection, but on presence. And in the end, it wasn't just about surviving loss, it was about creating a legacy of love that his children could carry forward safe and whole. His journey is a testament to the truth that family is not always who stays by blood, but who stays by choice.